for Q&A, questions and answers. For sure questions, but I'm not sure with answers. Just kidding. Yeah, anyone? When the topic is controversial, the questions are, I see there are hesitant faces wanting to ask questions, but yeah. Yeah.
Scott Abbey.
Scott Alexander, thank you very much for all your papers. They were wonderful. I have a question for Iysha. The concept of sexuality itself, right, appears to be, kind of deeply rooted in early modern thinking about the individual and the human person. I wonder what you think about folding into any potential both istishare and ijtihad regarding the issue of sexual rights, a kind of newer understanding based on science, actually, that one's sexual behavior is not simply a product of what people might consider moral agency, right? That our sexual attraction is in some ways, I'm not saying just exclusively genetic, but my studies in neuroscience, it's a combination of our sort of environment and our genes, et cetera, et cetera. So what do you think about the potential of maybe starting this process with a discussion about, how contemporary understandings of the nature of the human person are very different from the ones that, were at play when a lot of these sort of normative sort of understandings of human sexual behavior were articulated?
I thank you very much for the question. I didn't say the disclaimer at the beginning that actually, I do think it is what causes any type of queerness or however we are to come and define the variations in sexuality. I don't think it is caused by, being socialized into it. Not that individuals, I don't think, are socialized into it, because then you could socialize people out into it. And for a lot of people who this is their daily and real lived experience, it raises a lot of important questions, and no one chooses to be queer, in my own opinion. So that is definitely something that I would agree on the first types of comments that were made. Secondly, the kind of role of istishara within this, I think, is the fact that because it is a contemporary challenge, which is why I came to do this topic from the call of papers, is that the movement is now looking for answers. So the people, in terms of looking for answers, they're looking for individuals to ask who they trust that can give them some sort of guidance, and that it might be because they are feeling these things. It might be because their children are now in school in the Western world, in which was, sexuality would be hidden perhaps behind the doors in Turkey. And even if your teacher was, you wouldn't know, and pride is banned in Turkey, for example. But in the Western world, people are seeing flags, and now people want to know what the right way is to how to act, and they're looking for those questions. So that's why I think istishara is important. On the question of the scientific discussions and how they may impact Islamic law, I did just speak to Ahmet Kurucan just before coming up again, and he said that could change the debate. But how it could is another discussion, but yeah, I'll stop there.
Before coming to your question, I want to add just one sentence. Studying in the gender area, this istishara or interdisciplinary work is also important to, differentiate the terms gender identity, gender expression, sexual identity, sexual orientation. These are really important terms that should be discussed within these debates. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for your panels, for your presentations. This, I think, could be addressed by any of you, or I would welcome your comments on this. So in conducting the interviews I've done, a number of, which I think is very typical for immigrant communities or refugee communities, is a lot of my panelists, depending on age, were nervous about their children growing up in the West, and that disconnect from Turkish culture and, seeing some of these things such as sexuality and not knowing what to do with them and all of that. And then one of the women I interviewed was a psychologist, and she's seeing an increase in her practice. She deals with mostly Turkish clients of children of Hizmet refugees who are struggling and particularly resentful against their parents for that's why they're here in the West, and that's why they're struggling, is because their parents were members of Hizmet, and now they had to become refugees. So there is a tension that has come through in a number of my interviews, both perceived and perhaps in daily life in terms of interactions between, and also younger people saying, kind of scoffing at, there's no way I'm having an abi or abla set me up in a marriage. Like, that's laughable. So those kinds of tensions. So advice to, maybe from you, or your thoughts on how, intergenerations can maybe deal with this, with maybe, again, typical of immigrant communities, but particularly as it relates to the Hizmet movement and the momentum that the younger generation can hopefully bring, in caring.
So I can see the difference between the effect in culture and the students. So as you said, most of them, of course, there's an effect of the attempt and what we are experiencing. Most of the students are like against their parents, but they can establish a connection with their abis and ablas better than they're like separate from their parents as well. And PKM events are really, there's a great role of PKM in that, like solving that, I think, issue. Because in PKM, they feel like they are oppressed and they are part of a community, which is which is the youth center. So they can feel in PKM events that they are taught by Hizmet abis, like older abis, we can say. So, which we can say that they are not forgotten. So this is a very important message for them, that we care for them, that we think and that we are trying to find solutions that they are facing in Western culture. So when they see that, when they experience that there's something going on for them, they take a positive reaction, or they take the positive turn. It's just based on experience. So, but we can conduct a separate research about that, I guess.
Thank you.
We have come a long way
Yeah.
in the history, like in the Roman Catholic Church, trying to be open over these things. And I think that's worth an applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Here is my 2 cents. I wish we could have more sessions about this controversial topic. I think it's worth to discuss this. My note organizers. Thank you.